Hi, I'm Laura. I moved from Seattle to the Netherlands about 3 years ago. I only spoke English. That's just how Americans are raised. Usually only learn one language, maybe another one in high school or something, but doesn't stick. So, yeah, moving to the Netherlands and learning a second language was a lot for somebody who's an adult. It's easier to learn as a kid, but I really enjoyed learning Dutch. For work in the Netherlands, I'm an X-ray tech. I forget what it's called actually in the Netherlands, but yeah, I take X-rays. To be an X-ray tech in the Netherlands, um, you have to have level B2 for Dutch, and I was able to get the exams for that done and knocked out. And when I did the interview process for the job, it I found out that a lot of my colleagues that were also from different countries weren't at B2 level, and that the medical field is chronically short-staffed. So they're like, if you can even just get to B1, if your diploma gets recognized later, that's all fine. So I should have been interviewing earlier instead of worrying about exams. If you can speak enough to be understood, it comes very quickly as soon as you start working in it every day. So I wish I'd applied sooner instead of worrying about getting the B2 level exams done. I could have gotten it at B1. It would have been fine. I started at completely zero when I moved to the Netherlands, so well, I guess that's level A0, but it did take me probably a little bit longer than normal to get to B2. Um, the journey, I started doing some of these online intensive courses. They were very helpful. Like met, I think, a couple days every week, and we would slowly learn more vocabulary and how to speak and grammar. And then as soon as I moved to the Netherlands, I did some of those intensive courses in person, and that was really helpful because it kind of got me away from the everyday living, and I was just focused on studying Dutch. Um, but at some point in doing these intensive courses, I hit a wall because they were with a classroom of students. And at the level of Dutch I was at, I was very nervous to make mistakes. And it was very hard to speak in these settings with all these other students that, at least by my mind, seemed like they were doing great. And I just felt like I was falling behind. And then I met Daphne at one of these intensive courses, and she kind of saw where I was going, and she pulled me aside one day, and she's like, I think you would excel more in a one-on-one setting. So I set that up with Daphne, and that helped me a lot. I did that for quite a few months with her. She's very good at like tailoring to based on what I needed on one-on-one, and like, oh, this week I'm struggling with speaking, or this week I'm struggling with confidence, and then as we got closer to the B2 exams, she helped me specifically on like, here's what you can expect in the exams, and that helped a lot. And in between the lessons with Daphne, I also went to the local library in the city I live in, and they just had free language coaching sessions where you could just meet up with like one coach and like maybe another student. It was never a lot, so I didn't feel nervous. And yeah, you would just do little speaking practices. It would be like a lot of normal chit chat. Maybe we'd have a topic like history or medical or something, but it would just be like practicing speaking in a normal setting. Another thing that I actually found really helpful was getting a part-time job. So while I was studying, I ended up just like working in a museum or something in the cafeteria. And that was good. Just like working with customers and my colleagues in Dutch helped a lot. Even at a couple hours a week, it was still helpful. Get that practice in. Another thing that really helped was finding a group for a shared hobby. I do a lot of like board games and things, and so I'd found this group of women that in the Netherlands plays a lot of the same game as me. So it was good because they're all Dutch. So I was practicing my Dutch with them in an environment where I knew they were super friendly and they were just happy that I was there. So it wasn't like they were judging my pronunciations or anything necessarily because they just mostly speak to be understood. And for the most part, I could see that I could do that. And that was important for me to build self-confidence. Like, okay, maybe I'm not perfectly grammatically correct, like I was worried about all the time, but I'm understood. Personally, I think the most difficult part of speaking Dutch is just the small talk and the confidence in myself. Like I know I'm most of the time understood, but I know I still feel a little bit uh like an ego blow if I'm like talking to a patient and they're like, "What?" And I'm like, I say the same thing again, and they're like, I'm sorry, I don't understand. And my ego takes it personally. I know even in the beginning, I couldn't understand some of my patients either. And, there's accents and things. The Netherlands is a small country, but I've heard so many different accents by this point for how to speak Dutch. So I'm just another accent that you'll come across. So yeah, that was something that was difficult. Something that I guess was unexpectedly easy is just at some point while I was working, it just sort of like clicked because you just keep working in Dutch every day and you don't realize how easy it becomes until you get like a random question at the grocery store and you don't even think about it, you just respond. So I don't know when it becomes easier, but it will become easier if you stick with it and you do it every day. And I even sometimes when I'm at home, I only speak English at home. Um, I find that sometimes just a Dutch word will sneak out and I won't even realize it, and my husband will just be laughing. So it will seep in there when you don't recognize it and you're not aware of it. So you just have to keep practicing. I guess apply anyway. If you're at least B1, I'd say personally, at least you need to be at that level because you need to be able to, I guess, rescue yourself in Dutch and you communicate with patients and doctors. So you do have to have some level of professional speaking, but just get that far and apply anyway and do your best because everywhere I applied to, like they needed help and they were like, we're willing to train you and you will learn on the job. You'll pick up the language very quickly if you're working in it every day. And even the hospital I work at has a language learning program because, they're incentivized to have workers that can speak well and communicate well. So I'm in that program right now, and it's just a nice way to build some of that up, grammar and speaking and stuff like that. So my advice is just apply and just be honest with where you're at, and in the interview they'll be able to tell. But if you're willing to learn and you guys, it's a good fit, I think they're willing to go out and try it because they're short-staffed.